I don't even have to line them up or anything. I don't know. You just had a bit of a brain fart there. You're like,
it's 7 a.m.
Saturday mornings are probably the worst time to try and have.
We've had some success, to be clear, though.
Yeah, we've made a few episodes, but I feel like I've never really fired on full cylinders any time that we're here.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, though, to be clear.
Well, that's it. I mean, it could be worse. We could be sitting here on a Saturday night with a few skins on, and be talking worse rubbish,
I think we should consider that for at least one go around.
Just to see how it goes.
Yeah, and then we'll not even remember it the next day. We'll have to listen to it to find out what happened. Huh. And then never release it, probably. You think it's hard to understand me now?
I think there's a sweet spot. There's a sweet spot where you become very chatty and very, not just you specifically, but people get very chatty and more extroverted. And I think it's around the 3 beer mark. I'd say the 3 beer mark, or maybe the 2 strong drink mark, and then after that it's a slow decline and they being
into madness pretty much. Yeah.
And then I think once you get past maybe 7 or 8 drinks, you're gone, you're cooked, and you think that you're still the fucking man of the hour, but
you're not. No.
You're absolutely not.
I hate seeing videos of myself drunk, when somebody's taking a video and I'm just in the background even. I just look like an absolute menace. I love, but that when you snap your fingers, the noise comes from your index finger hitting your palm.
I did hear that.
That
wasn't a pun or not a pun.
And I love explaining that to the kids because it blows their mind. Because for the longest time, before I knew this, or somebody told me this at some point, you couldn't have convinced me otherwise. But then when you do it,
makes perfect sense.
You notice exactly what's happened,
and you can actually hear, when you were doing it there, you can hear the finger move down the other finger.
Yeah, the little swoosh. Yeah. Which is one of those things that fuck you up.
That's it. Quality podcast content today. We've hit the ground running.
Well, apropos to nothing, obviously, but we are planning to talk about the uncanny valley today as an idea because we've had some car discussions about it already. So we thought we'd expand those in.
Yeah, but we were supposed to do it a couple of days ago, but it was so noisy up here that we didn't do it. And now I can't remember what originally got me thinking about the uncanny valley. There was something that I seen, and I was like, "Oh wow, that's really interesting." And now I can't remember the interesting part. I can just remember the uncanny valley.
I remember your interesting part, but I feel that it comes later. As in, we talk about it first, and then you bring your theory up. Unless you want to bring your theory up.
Oh, yeah. Well, we can talk about the theory later because I think that's probably the most completely it's actually got nothing to do with the uncanny valley. It's just something I pulled out of my ass. So we'll talk about the uncanny valley first, and then we can talk about my completely unvetted, unsupported claims about why.
I don't think it's wrong though. But anyway, yes. So. I've had a couple. There's quite a few things, as a kid and stuff, that were uncanny valley. It's not a new thing with AI.
No, it's not.
When I looked into it a little bit, apparently the term was coined in 1970.
Right.
So it's not even a computer-related thing necessarily. And
it's like a sex doll thing.
Puppets was the thing that I thought of originally, not sex dolls. But
when you say the 1970s.
No, 1970, exactly.
Yeah, so they're just coming off the back of the 60s. It's just...
I don't know if sex dolls were a thing.
They were a bunch of old perverts, Nathan.
They
were a bunch of old perverts.
The way you talk, this is like the drug thing again. You talk about the 60s as if everything started happening in the 60s that never happened before. All these things happened before. There's always been perverts, and actually way worse perverts in the 1800s than there are now, probably.
That's a good point. But I suppose there's 2 things that come off the back of that. The first one is that, I suppose that's very true, and that the 60s just gets its bad name because it's coming after those 20 years of people being very straight-laced after the World War, and then it was back into the nuclear family and all the proper traditional family values. And then the 60s came along. And the second thing that I was going to say is that I don't think that they would have had the technology in the 1800s to make particularly uncanny sex dolls. Puppets, yes.
I don't think they would have minded it if they were necessarily uncanny. I think that was more function over form at that point.
Well, you know what? I went to a sex museum. Where was it?
I went to one in Amsterdam, if you're talking about that.
I went to the one in Amsterdam. This isn't the one I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of the one in Prague. Mm-hmm. And they had all these like old school machinations from way back in the day, and they had, you know, all the real old timey like pictures, and then even before photographs were invented, so that was like before the late 1800s. Yep. They just had the fucking diagrams of people using it. People had just drawn, and so yeah, I suppose all kinky sex toys go back a long time. Maybe we should make an episode on that. I don't have enough.
I'm not informed enough at all. No.
I can go and Google a few things, and we'll come back and do old school sex toys of the Victorian era.
That might be a hairy Google for you, but yeah. I'll leave it to you.
I'm already on a watch list. You know, just not in a sexual way. Not from looking at weird sex stuff. I want to make that very clear. Just through work, because I'm always looking up like how to make explosives.
Oh, of course,
stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it's I'm absolutely being watched by.
Here's this Northern Irish boy looking to make explosives.
Yeah, exactly. So like MI5 and MI6 are like me like, and what can you get away with not having a firearms license for?
Well, at least you're looking at legalities. That's the difference.
You know, how many joules can a projectile have before it's considered a firearm and all this kind of stuff. But so yeah, I'm totally already being watched. I'm not worried about what they see me kinky Victorian stuff. That's way down their list. You know,
yeah, that's way gone. Well, apparently, back to the Uncanny Valley. There apparently the puppet specific situation. There was like a puppet. I think it was in the 80s.
Okay.
That somebody had made like a normal puppet master, and apparently whatever way it was made, or it was possessed, or whatever, people thought it was possessed. Mm-hmm.
Is it a ventriloquist dummy? It's got to be a ventriloquist dummy.
Yeah. And it was really, really well made, that it did kind of look like an actual person. So this is where the uncanny part comes from. But the weirder part was that even when there was no hand up its butt, so to speak, its eyes would still follow people that walked past and stuff. And people got really freaked out about it, and they burned it like an effigy situation.
Is that just that that phenomenon that you see in like old paintings and stuff? Like when
I wonder, but people know about that.
But you know, when something is like so well made that
it's creepy. Yeah. I like those old paintings. Was like The Haunting. Is that one of those films? I remember watching that when I was a kid, like when it came out. And it was like the scariest thing in the world, but watching it back now, it's like so campy. Like it's Owen Wilson's in it.
Oh, really?
Like, I think so. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah,
but I'm pretty sure
I couldn't really imagine him in something super scary. Like, imagine like The Haunting of Hill House or something.
Well, that's pretty good. I like that.
You know, but imagine if it was Owen Wilson in it. I have a lot of time for Owen Wilson. I think he's a good actor, but my God.
We just watched 2 Owen Wilson movies back to back last night. Yeah. So, Wedding Crashers and then Meet the Parents. We're just going old school and some funny things.
Meet the Parents?
Mm-hmm. Ben Stiller is the main character.
Is Owen Wilson in Meet the Parents? Mm-hmm. I can't remember that.
Yeah.
It's been so long since I've seen it.
I hadn't watched it since it came out, I don't think.
No.
I loved it when it came out. It's just like that's how things went with it. So I'm missing it and then forget about it. Uh-huh. It wasn't one you're going to buy on DVD, like, do you know what I mean?
Well, it's strange because it kind of is one that you would buy on DVD. It's a sort of like easy watching thing that you would have.
But it came out it came out in 2000, and I wasn't really buying DVDs on bulk until like 2005, I want to say.
Yeah.
So it was like there's enough time gap there where I was like, well,
you wouldn't have been the target demographic there either. In 2005, you would have been what, 16?
Yeah, 17.
17. So it's not something you wouldn't have been looking at, like Meet the Parents. That's like for people like date night in their 20s, isn't it? That's kind of like what Meet the Parents is for.
I mean, it's literally 25 years old now, so that weird ad, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't know. Is that weird?
I don't know. It feels weird. It feels wrong. Do you know what I mean? It is still a good film, though. It was still good crack. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. I really miss films like that because they just don't get made anymore. You know, that sort of humor, I feel like it's really died out. It's really hard to find a modern show and a modern comedy show that does the kind of thing. They were like dime a dozen whenever we were growing up.
Back in the day.
And all of, back in the day, and all those kind of just stupid, gaggy, campy.
Like the situation part of it is like totally normal and good, and that's like the selling point almost, and then like it's just like slapstick in some ways in terms of how ridiculous it goes, you know, which I like. I enjoy that sort of that's the way the absurd goes as opposed to
it's like
the situation.
It's like a lot of fundamentally good people getting put into awkward situations, and the comedy comes out of how they get out of those awkward situations.
But like that was like a trope from like, I want to say like the early 1900s, even the 1800s in plays I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like there's so many plays I read I did drama in university.
Yeah, when was the last time you seen that though?
Exactly. I'm sure they still happen in their own way, but like, you know, there's a play. It was made into a film as well, but it's called Harvey, and it's what do you call him? What do you call your boy from It's a Wonderful Life?
I have no idea.
What's his name?
Gene.
No, it's not Gene. It's just Gene.
Just throwing it out. Gene sounds like somebody from that day.
I feel like I've lost my mind. I know this guy inherently, but you'll know who I'm talking about, everybody listening, because anyway, the film's amazing. The film's so funny, and it's still funny to this day because it's just exactly that. It's like, here's a here's a pretty normal situation. Here's a weird element, and here's all the funny stuff that comes from that. Like, and it's really well done, and it isn't dated. You know, to read it, you know, it's still just as funny. You know.
Well, I think that type of comedy never really dates because everyone knows what it's like to be trying to be as like professional, or you know, trying to put on a face around people you don't really know, or you know, at work, or you know, meeting your girlfriend's parents or whatever it is. You're in a situation where you're out of your comfort zone and you're trying to be prim and proper, and then bad stuff starts happening and it all starts going wrong. But everybody knows what it's like in some capacity for that to happen. You know, I think it's a very human thing. They laugh at afterwards.
There have been a couple of TV shows recently. We've gone straight so far off already, but there are a couple of TV shows recently, the last like 10 years. One like called This Country, and one called Stath Let's Flats. They're both like English, but two of the funniest things I've ever seen because it's almost so mundane that the humor has to come from somewhere else. And I feel like what happens a lot these days is that they try and put the humor in the premise as opposed to in the what happens in a mundane situation. Does that make sense? What I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Like humor's part of it. Like when you're selling the show, you're saying like, "Oh, this is where it's like here's the setup for it, and that's hilarious." And you're like, "Well, that is hilarious, probably." But like, it's much more funny to start with mundane and move
yeah. I get exactly what you mean, and I think you're right that they're just trying to be a bit more zany now, you know, than just like trying to write. I suppose it's almost like a twist on what the normal shows of those times would have been. Like we were talking about, like Harry Met Sally, even though that is like a comedy.
It's a timeless classic.
But but you know, those kind of, you know, you got the meet cute, and you know, there was all these real standard ideas of Hollywood writing that were in, you know, your conventional, you know, romantic shows or rom-coms, and then your comedies sort of took that same idea but pushed it to its sort of comedic limits. And I think that's kind
the fun of it.
Yeah.
Funny you say that.
Whereas now they're just trying to specifically make a comedy it's a comedy because it's a comedy because it's funny, like type of thing.
This is a completely almost irrelevant conversation again, but still. But I just watched Silence of the Lambs again. Like I've seen it a million times.
Classic comedy.
Or what? Classic comedy. But I watched it like, you know, in the week there past, and there was a part at the start where like, you know, Clarice, the main character, she's like out doing her FBI.
It's going to be terrible. I have never seen it.
You've never seen it? No, you're missing out. And I thought
I'm not really into that kind of thing.
You get into it. But
although I listened to a whole thing last night about a guy eating another guy over the course of 4 months. We're not going to get we're not going to get to the uncanny valley the next, because we're trying to do a half-hour episode and we're 15 minutes in, and now we're like, well, we just talk about cannibalism anyway.
Well, let me get to my very quick point, because I was really confused by it in some ways, because it is like, it won like all the Oscars, whatever, that year. Best horror, people think it's the best horror film of all time. I love it. I've read the books. I'm big into the whole Hannibal Lecter lore, but I've watched everything to do with Hannibal Lecter and everything else. But just at the very start, and this is like not necessarily part of just specific to this film, it's just something that used to happen a lot in films. It doesn't really happen anymore, where somebody comes and says, "You're wanted in the office," or whatever, and then she's like, "Yeah, cool, no problem," walks away, and then there's like this 5-second shot of the guy who said that just like watching her leave with like a in the background, and that just doesn't happen anymore, because like nobody just watches people leave like that. And it was like, what caused that to be part of this? Because it's not like it's a janky film that has some weird ideas. Like that obviously was like something that was normal to do.
To watch people leave in a room, yeah.
But I mean, to have that 5-second shot of just this guy's face, you don't even see her leaving. You're just watching this guy like this, just staring at her. I was like, they don't do that anymore. And is that because we don't do that as a society anymore, or is it because like film has progressed beyond something? I don't know. I'm just confused about it. I try to think about like.
Yeah, that is interesting. Like, is it a societal shift that we've done, or is it just a screenwriting shift that we've done?
Yeah.
It could be a mix of both. I think technology is probably a big thing to do with it. We don't interact anywhere near as much as we used to interact, and I find myself doing that as well. It's like, even if you're out and you're hanging around, if there's a lull in the conversation, you pull out your phone. Like, you don't sit and go, oh, like look around, or oh, look at that, or you don't try to engage in conversation about the world around you so much.
I do try, but it's a conscious effort. Like, it's not, I want to pull out my phone, to be clear, but I'm not going to, because I'm trying not to be that person.
Yeah, but it didn't used to be that way. Again, I think we're just at the perfect age for it, where we grew up without it, but we also grew up with it. Like, I didn't get a smartphone until I was in my 20s, so
me either.
I didn't really have access to the internet all of the time until I was like 21, 22.
That being said, and this is probably why I'm like this, where I consciously try not to bring my phone out, is that I was also of the age when I got my first phone, which was not a smartphone. I'm talking like I was like 12 or whatever.
Yeah.
I was so obsessed with it that my dad got so angry at me all the time. Put the phone away. Stupid phone down. For not interacting with people. So it was drilled into me in an early age. You have to like not do this.
That's a good point. And I suppose you are right, because I also was obsessed with my phone and always being in contact with my friends.
Exactly.
And because they were button phones. Yep. And you had them at school,
and
you weren't allowed to have them at school. So you learned how to message without having to look at the phone. So you could have the phone in your pocket or down at your side, and you would just be like typing away. So in your mind, you're having a conversation somewhere else, even though you're looking around and pretending that you're engaging, but you're sitting here tap 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 tap.
I wonder if there's somebody on TikTok right now with a Nokia 3310 doing ASMR.
Oh yeah, for sure. So either someone is doing it,
or they're about to when they hear this.
There's money to be made.
You're welcome.
Could you go to sleep doing that? I quite like.
I think I would sleep really hard to listen to the sound of a Nokia 3310 texting.
Yeah, I mean, I watched a video of a guy talking about. It was about people getting real deep into their special interest, but it was about mechanical keyboards. He was talking about how people really get into the sound of the mechanical keyboard, and they showed these 3 different mechanical keyboards. It's like, some want them that they're like tap tap tap, and then he went tap 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 tap, and then and some people like them to go like thwop thwop thwop, and then he did a different keyboard, and I went like tup 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 tup. I was like, I can't fucking believe that people, and it was a minuscule difference, and I trained as an audio engineer, so I'm able to I'm able to discern different sounds. I would say better than the average person.
Definitely, no question about that. Much better than me, at least.
Yeah, and I was listening going, that is so infinitesimally small. There is a difference, but for someone, they care about that when they're typing in things on a keyboard. Like, that's what they want. It's
like
unbelievable.
I like
But, I like a typewriter sound, but that is fundamentally different from like a keyboard, a clacking keyboard sound.
And you need to have that every now and again, whoosh, when you push it back again.
Yeah.
And the typewriter sound. That's part of it.
I don't even know how that works, the pushing back on a typewriter thing. I've never used a typewriter.
You've never used
no, but I really like the idea of it.
So you get to the end of your sentence, and then you have to push the thing backwards, so you start at the side of the paper again.
I've seen people do it in movies and stuff, but you know what movies are like. I don't think that's a reliable...
It's not a reliable narrative.
No. But, it's like the shotgun, like on the shotgun. And then the bullet just fucking goes out the way. So, like, you don't need to do that. But
yeah, so back to the Uncanny Valley so we can try and... Just because we started saying we're going to talk about it. That's the only reason.
We didn't even get to... I was going to start talking about the serial killer guy that ate the guy.
Go ahead. I'm too interested. Tell me in a week.
All right, well...
This is not going to be a half-hour episode.
It's either not going to be a half-hour episode or it's not going to be about the Uncanny Valley. One of the two. But... So, I was watching a video about lost media. I was talking about all of these things that have been recorded that now you just can't get access to anymore. And a lot of it was about modern media and how we're in, like, streaming everything. Mm-hmm. And particularly I worry about it with video games, because video games is a big hobby of mine that I've always loved since I was 2 years old and I was playing Street Fighter with my dad right through to modern day, like my entire life. It's been a big like one of my fundamental hobbies. But now it's all gone, or almost gone digital. And I've got a few old games from when I was a kid, and some of them are worth like $1,000 or more than $1,000.
Easy,
because they're so rare now. But a lot of that sort of lost media idea, and what we were talking about, the DVDs, and back whenever you used to have to buy DVDs, you would rewatch DVDs all the time, and you would know them really well. Whereas now, I would never watch a movie twice. I'm just like, why would I watch the same movie again? Whereas you used to do it all the time. So
I still do that quite a bit, to be honest.
I do it sometimes. Like,
but it's a comfort thing, because I'm like working and I just have something on the background to keep me focused on my work and not get distracted. I have something that isn't going to distract me too much because I know what's going on. Does it make sense? Well,
Emma does that for going to sleep and stuff. We might lie in bed and just have something that's easy in the background. And I did it last night with The Crow, because I
haven't seen that in years.
Actually. I love The Crow. It's like one of my favorite shows of all time. But so yeah, I do it a little bit, but by and large, because it's streaming now, instead of having a set library of things that you go to, you have an almost infinite choice that occasionally gets rejigged. So you just kind of wait for new stuff to come on and say whatever. But the point is that a lot of things are getting lost now. And I even know from like stuff that I've worked on. Like I worked on that Batgirl movie,
yes,
for Warner Bros. And it was completed and it was pretty much ready to go. And then whenever they did a test screening of it, they went, you know what? They merged with Discovery Channel.
Yep.
And then the new CEO decided to take it as a tax write-off. So it was like, a 90 million movie. It's something that a lot of people spend months and months and months of their lives and really, 6-day weeks, 70 hours a week, put a lot of effort into trying to make something. And then it's just been, we'll just chuck it and we'll take the tax write-off on it and we'll never get to see it now. And that's lost media. Basically, it's things that you can't see anymore that are locked away, that some company has in their vault, or that's just been lost to the sands of time.
I think there's twofold to this, in that first of all, what you may or may not know, but it should be good news if you don't know, is there's whole, I'm part of them as well in Reddit, but there's whole internet communities dedicated to preserving lost media. So they have like open directories where they save all these different things, and like they search for things, and if somebody has it, somebody has the DVD from 2001, and they upload it and they keep it safe. It's a whole thing. But I don't think that this sort of thing happened back in the day because of like direct to DVD. Like there's a wild lot of crap, like absolutely woeful movies that came out just on DVD, not in the cinema. And obviously they probably test screen it, was like, well, there's no point in putting this out in the cinema, let's just put it on DVD. So like a lot of things weren't lost back in the day, but now they just, again, I think that things have changed in a big way, that tax write-offs are possible like that I don't think, that's the harder part, is that Now that's not even, nobody can get it to save it, you know.
Well, there's been such a fundamental change. This is specifically talking about the film industry, but there's been such a fundamental change in like the last 10 years as well. Even from whenever I started in the industry until now, the rise of streaming services and the streaming wars and excuse me, and all of the like Silicon Valley people coming in, like Apple coming in, and even Netflix to a lesser extent, Amazon. Like a lot of these massive companies have just now decided that they're going to start making content basically for their libraries, and then these big corporations will just say, all right, well, you know, we can just scrub that and take the tax write-off or scrub this. Whereas before it was a lot of studios and all they did was make movies. So they were making movies and they had to send them out.
Yeah,
and just,
exactly.
And, you know, they just had to try and make them as best as they possibly could. Try and make sure that they knew that they were going to get some money back from it. And then just put it out there and just plug the fuck out of it and try and make money. And that was the only way that they could recoup their costs.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately it ended up in a better result, and I think it was a better consumer experience as well. And the fact that you know that whenever you buy something, you're always going to have access to it. Like even now, there's people who have like bought movies and had them, you know, like digital on their digital libraries, and then they've just been taken off because the distributor doesn't have the rights anymore to distribute the movie, and so it just gets pulled off because they're not allowed to let people watch it anymore through their service.
It's mad, isn't it?
And that's ridiculous. You know, the fact that you can pay the same amount of money that you would have paid for a DVD, and instead someone can just take it at any time. And I know technically the DVDs were just, you were purchasing a license to view the thing, but you still owned that physical media. You still owned it. No one was coming to your house to collect the DVD if they suddenly lost the rights to it. So yeah, I'm not massively concerned about lost media, but it is something that I'm interested in.
There are people who are massively concerned.
Yeah.
So they're doing the action, you don't have to worry.
Yeah, I know, that's it. But anyway, the lost media this guy was talking about was like, you know, there's footage of like, you know, televised stuff from like SeaWorld of a girl getting grabbed by an orca whale that she had worked with for years, and the orca whale drags her to the bottom and crushes her against the bottom of the thing.
That's okay to get lost, realistically.
Yeah, for sure. And there was another one of a news presenter, and she wanted to commit suicide, and she did it on live air and blew her brains out on live air. Jeez. Stuff like that. So in the lost media video so in the lost media videos that I was watching, the last one, he was talking about this guy, and I remember hearing about it back years ago, but it was back in the early 2000s. There was this Austrian guy in Germany, and he had always wanted to eat someone. He'd always had this fantasy about eating someone.
Is this the boy who put that out in the paper?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the story.
And, yeah, but I don't think it was in the paper. It was online.
Oh, I thought it was in the paper.
I thought it was in the paper as well, but it was online that he put it out. And he was on forums, like cannibalism forums and stuff. So ever since he was a kid and he heard about Hansel and Gretel, the brothers Grimm tale, so he always thought about Hansel being eaten by the witch.
I never knew that the origin story of this cannibal was Hansel and Gretel. I never considered that would even be a possibility.
No, neither did I. But so this guy, ever since he was a kid and he heard about Hansel and Gretel, he always thought about what it would be like to eat someone. But he didn't want to hurt anyone. He didn't want to do anybody harm. He just lived his normal life, but he just had this fantasy of eating someone. And then he was in all the cannibalism forums, and then he put out a post saying, "Look, does anybody want to be eaten?" And he wasn't going out murdering people or like trying to enact some sick but you know what I mean.
He was being pleasant about it.
He was being pleasant about it. Yeah. But so then there was a guy that got back to him who was suicidal and basically wanted to be eaten, and he made the whole
match made in heaven.
Yeah. And I think the boy specifically wanted his balls to be eaten first or something. So I remember hearing, and now this wasn't in the video that I watched, but I do remember hearing that they had like an ice bath. The guy got in the ice bath, and then they cut his balls off, and the guy cooked them and ate them in front of the guy while he was still alive. That could be an urban myth. But I remember hearing about that when this story broke years ago. But in the video that I watched yesterday, I know it's really.
It took me a second to really process that.
Yeah, I know. It's descending, isn't it? We're descending onto some weird stuff here. But the lost media part of it comes from the fact that on the day that they were doing it, they videoed everything. So it was a 4-hour long process, and they videoed the whole lot. And basically, over the course of the 4 hours, the other guy died or was killed or whatever. I don't know exactly how they did it, but the guy ended up dead.
Yeah.
And then the other guy spent 4 hours basically like butchering him.
Yeah.
Like butchering as in how
literally,
you would butcher an animal.
Yeah.
And making them into like little meal-sized portions and freezing them so that he would have the meals for, I think it was over 4 months that he had them. So he got like over 45
batch cooking situation.
Yeah. So I think it was like he got like 45 pounds of meat or something off him, and then all the rest of the stuff, they were like having conversations beforehand about how you would dispose of all the rest of the stuff, and about the bones and like the knobbly knees. They were saying they were going to like dry it up and grind it and the dust and use it for fertilizer. And the guy was like, "Oh yeah, I've heard bones are really good for fertilizer." Talking about his own bones.
That's mad.
Like, yeah,
that's mad.
Pretty fucked up.
Don't like that.
But
Ooh, gives me the heebie-jeebies.
yeah, but the only reason that he was caught is because like there was some other Austrian guy that was on like the Cannibal forum and said to him, "So have you actually killed anyone?" And he was like, "Well, yeah." And so the guy went to the police, and then the police arrested the dude. But
outside.
But it was so strange because it was 100% consensual.
Yeah, that's the part that I struggle with.
They went there, and the guy was just like held his hands up, and went, "Yeah, 100%." And in Germany, cannibalism isn't a crime.
Yeah.
There's no law that says you can't eat people.
Again, this is just like the motor oil situation that you talked about. Is like they shouldn't have to have that as a rule.
So this guy, they took him into court, and they couldn't do him for the cannibalism because he didn't break any laws. They couldn't do him for like murder because it was like it was basically like euthanasia. It was like consensual. So they were in this real weird predicament where they didn't know what they could do with this guy. They wanted to punish him, but even when they sent him to jail, they sent him to jail for 8 years, and in jail, he didn't show any remorse. He was like, what did I do? I didn't do anything wrong. The guy wanted to be eaten. I wanted to eat him. Like, it's two consenting adults. And I kind of agree with that.
I'm struggling to find a problem with it, if I'm honest, in my head. But, like, what people will inevitably say is that, if somebody wants... It's
like a mental health thing. Yeah.
Suicide is like a mental illness, they'll say, pretty much, and... that person clearly isn't in his right mind to consent to it, and that's how it goes. But this stretches into my confusion, and again, I'm not a professional, which is why I'm confused. But when there's a serial killer, right? So somebody who just loves going out killing people, that's like his whole thing, right?
I love me some killing.
I love me some killing. And then they go to court, and like, the way they have in America, this is at least, but there's the whole insanity plea, where instead of being sent to jail, you go to a mental hospital. I don't really understand how you can consider somebody who loves killing people not insane. Like, surely by default, all these people should be considered insane.
I think the insanity plea is whenever
they're not in the right mind or whatever.
Yeah, you're not in the right mind. But if you know what you've done and you can comprehend the fact that you have taken the life of another person and you have done it willingly, then they can go, all right, well, you knew what you were doing.
But surely the idea of doing that is a bit mad.
It is a bit mad, but aren't we all a bit mad?
I know, but like, I just struggle with that concept. And obviously, you're probably right, and it's probably really simple.
Yeah,
but like,
I don't know.
For some reason, I find it more nuanced in my head than I can understand.
I always presumed that it was just the insanity plea was for people that were like, yeah, but he had fucking insects in his brain, so I had to help him. Like,
yeah, but
that's kind of where I was like, that dude's cooked.
It's cooked.
Don't put him in there with all those other people. Like,
do you want to find out as well? Now that we're on true crime instead of Uncanny Valley.
Yeah, well, Uncanny Valley will do the next episode.
It's what they call in other countries Black Saturday today, which is the day between Good Friday and Easter Sunday.
Okay, I never heard of that.
I only heard of it this week, and only because I manage people in other countries. That's what it's called in their holiday calendar.
Okay.
But two things. Well, first of all, just on the holidays, a whole load of like countries here, Christian or Catholic or whatever, that have a load of these holidays like we do, like Good Friday, Easter Sunday, Christmas, all that jazz. Of all those countries, we're the only country that has Easter Monday, and I think it's a hangover thing. All these other countries are back and work on Monday, and I'm not, because it must be a hangover situation. There's no other explanation for it in my head. We have one hangover holiday, and they all have the getting ready for the Easter situation.
It makes a lot of sense, but whenever you,
I'm sure it's not that.
Whenever you cast the net a little bit wider, you go, would we not rather have the 18th of March as the hangover holiday than Easter Monday?
It's a good point. That's a good point.
If someone was going to bake it into like the constitution of
that's a good point.
The country. And the country is not, the country is ancient, but like the modern Republic of Ireland country is really like not even 100 years old.
No, it's not. So that's a good point.
I think
we'll just blame the English for these.
Yeah, but then, blame the English. But even at that, 100 years ago, I don't really think that religious holidays like St. Patrick's Day and
there wasn't any public holidays. I don't think then. I imagine so, at least.
I'm not sure.
At least in law, like
yeah. But whenever no, I don't think that's true either. I was going to say, like, back whenever they were designing the public holidays, I think we probably didn't have as big a drink culture here. There's people just getting absolutely sauced. But did you ever see that thing online? And it talks about all the inventions that come out of Ireland. And then so there's, this invention and that invention, blah, blah, blah. And, it's for a small country, it's fairly good.
It's a good list.
And then we invent whiskey, and there's 300 years of nothing after whiskey. Before it's like, okay, the dialysis machine. Then afterwards.
You can almost use that as how our lives went as well. Yeah. We discover whiskey and then 10 years of nothing.
It might not necessarily have been the whiskey either. Like there was we were having a pretty bad time.
We were having a pretty bad time at that time.
I think we might have invented whiskey as a coping mechanism for the bad times, rather than we were too busy partying on our whiskey.
But the other thing then, in Norway apparently, we do like Easter eggs and stuff for Easter. Like this is normal for us, and like in like other countries they have very similar. It's all chocolate related mostly, and there's like other weird, extra bits. But in Norway apparently they have this whole culture of Easter where all they do is sit and read true crime books. And like that's kids in school as well, not just like adults. It's just like their Easter thing. It's just crime. It's just a good old Easter crime time.
Because Jesus was murdered.
I mean, I read it that way in some ways.
What's the through line?
I don't know the answer to that, but I just know that that's what happens now.
I mean, what's the through line with fucking chocolate eggs either? They say, the egg is like chocolate's circular. It's like the circle of life.
A recent invention, but it's pretty recent to come to Ireland, for example. Like we don't have cocoa beans. Yeah. So so obviously the Easter chocolate situation is very new in the grand scheme of things compared to when the whole Jesus thing happened.
Yeah, because like 100 years ago in Ireland, you weren't getting no chocolate egg. Like what did they do?
What did
a normal egg?
I don't think it would have been a normal egg.
I think it would have been like a fucking piece of fruit or something.
Fruit, fruit was a big deal.
Yeah, probably would have got like an apple. Your Easter apple.
Imagine living in a world. I mean, I'm not against it, but like my mum talks about this sometimes, where like at Christmas they would have got like an orange or something because like fruit was so sparse. Because again, we do not have the climate for a lot of fruits.
Yeah.
And like I was like, God, how good would an orange taste if you couldn't have it all the time? Do you know what I mean? Like fruit actually is class, and then you take it for granted. I feel like
you do take it for granted, but I think whenever you have the option of like the ultra processed foods that we've had since like the 70s and the 80s, and I feel like you would almost need to go on a detox and get rid of all that shit out of your body, and then go back to eating like normal foods. Like, and by normal foods, I mean like food that we would have eaten for the last 200,000 years. I mean, I love a spud.
I love a spud.
Yeah, you gotta love a spud if you're
Irish. Oil and mash and stick in the shoe situation.
You're talking my language.
Literally,
yeah. And then you went the Lord of the Rings route as well. Love that. got time for that.
But let's have a little chat about the uncanny valley. So
let's do it in the next episode because we're 40 minutes into this one.
We may as well have a 10-minute go and then
we'll do it on the next one.
I don't think we will. Well, let's tell them your theory at least.
Let's leave it for the next one because I can get into that theory. It almost goes into conspiracy theory territory. I can start talking about the Silurians and stuff like that and the reptile people. But so let's leave it. I don't think we have time. Are you laughing at the Silurians?
I'm laughing at all the concept of everything.
Shouldn't laugh at the Silurians, man.
Are they coming to get me?
They're dangerous folk. All right. Well, let's leave it at that. I'll tell you about the Silurians in the next episode.